speaking so is a promise of a hand that reaches.
My name is Susan Mulimunene. I have been an Hope listener from the year 2006. And I started listening to Hope and searching the scriptures. And more so, two programs that really spoke to me was Breath of Life and Life Questions. Because first, my challenges, I would find them being answered or being challenged more. And the Breath of Life was speaking to my spirit. So 2006 May, I was listening to Hopefm, Breath of Life in the evening, and Wambo Mboro was the presenter at that time, hosting Reverend Ken Kimiwe. And at the end of it, they made an altar call, of which I answered and knelt by my bedside. At that point, I was a very troubled person. I was sleepless, I was having high blood pressure, I was getting angry very fast. My friendships were not lasting because of my tempers. And at that point, when I asked Christ into my life, I asked him for one thing, peace, because peace to me was a word then. I wasn't experiencing it. And I asked God to give me peace. And the minute I said amen, I felt this calmness in my spirit. It was something so overwhelming that even during the prayers when I was crying, at the end of the prayer, the tears were no longer there, but I just had that calm in me. And that was 24th May 2006, when now I started walking the journey of Hopefm impacting in my life. So I remember at one time, I was going for an interview in a public transport for a job in Southern Sudan by an NGO. And when the matatu stopped to pick people at a stage in Hurlingham, Tina Nzuki was on Activate that morning. And she said a word that spoke to me. She said there's somebody she senses who's going for an interview. And the person should claim that job because the Lord will grant them that job. And I took that word and personally internalized it. From that time, from the Hurlingham stage until I alighted and got into the interview venue, I kept on confessing and decreeing that word, that this is my job, the Lord has spoken, no weapon fashioned against me will prosper, the enemy will not steal from me my destiny. And at that time, I was going through an Esther fast. And I remember very well it was on a Tuesday because I'd started the Esther fast that day, Tuesday being my fasting day. When I went for the interview, there's the spirit and the physical. The spirit was telling me, it's your job, I've claimed it. But what I saw in the physical really shook me. We were 40 of us, and I could see men who look like they have it with suits and briefcases, and here I am, a young girl, not confident of myself and wondering, will I really hack it? Did I hear my own things, or was that word really for me? Anyway, through the interview, I kept on confessing it, but as we sat for the written interview and were given the papers, it was one of the hardest written interviews I've ever done to date. And I looked at it and wondered, oh my goodness, that word was mine, but what is here on the paper is different. So I started praying that as much as I'm seeing it's difficult, let it also be difficult for everyone in that hall. Let it not be only me. And at the end of the interview, out of the 40, we were told only the top 5 will be picked to proceed with the final interview, which is the oral. And by God's grace, I was among the 5. And the next day, on Wednesday, we attended the oral interviews. And for the oral, when we finished, I felt I'd hacked it. I felt I must be the best, even the way the people who interviewed were responding. And that was the second day of the Esther fast. So we were told we will be communicated to by Friday. The person who will have been selected will be called. The rest, we were to check our emails for a regret. So come Friday, no communication. I didn't check my email because I knew no phone call means I didn't succeed. But I was so sure this is my word, that this is my job, and I wondered what could have gone wrong. So on Monday, the next week on Monday, I decided I'm going back on an Esther fast to claim this job and ask God, was this word really mine? But the more I went into the fast and prayer, the more I felt this was my job. So I fasted and prayed and decreed that it is going to come back to me. And as I was breaking my fast on a Wednesday at 3 p.m., I got a phone call from the organization. And they asked me if I was in Nairobi and if I could go to the offices on Friday. And I said, yes, I'll be there. I didn't ask them why. So Friday I went to the office and they explained to me, now we had not selected you, we had given the offer to somebody else. However, I was the second best option. Based on some technicalities. In oral, I was the best, but in written, I was the second best. So they gave somebody the offer. But this person, after signing the contract that Friday, came back on Wednesday when they called me to tell them, unfortunately, they have to reject the offer because they have been given an opportunity to attend a master's in Germany, and they've been given a full scholarship. So she declined the offer, and that is how I was called to be offered this opportunity. Through Hopefm, the Lord also revealed to me a gifting while I was listening to Hope. It was about life questions, and Reverend Wesley Ngu was the one who was answering the questions. And a gentleman sent a question and guidance because he was struggling with a sexual addiction, bestiality, and he was at a crossroad asking for prayers and deliverance. As the Reverend Gu was answering the question, I suddenly felt pain in my heart, something being put in my heart, and I could tell this was not from me. It was so painful that it threw me from the seat, and I started crying and wailing and for this person. I felt I just had to intercede for their life. And in the process of praying for God to deliver them and to forgive them, God showed me a vision of this gentleman with a rope. He wanted to end his life. And I prayed that that does not happen, but I was not getting a breakthrough. So I took my phone and sent a message to Hopefm through their SMS number that they need to get in touch with this gentleman because his thing is at the end of the road and he wants to give it all up. I continued praying after that. I didn't get a response on the SMS, but later on in the afternoon, towards evening, Reverend Wesley Ngu called me back and told me they actually called that gentleman and they found it was true, and they have sent him to someone to encourage him, to walk with him, and to pray over him. That birthed a gifting in me. During that program on Hopefm, I realized I have a gift because in the years following, I've had such situation whereby the Lord puts me in somebody's spirit that I can feel the pain, the anguish they're going through, so that I can have a burden to pray with them. And yes, sometimes it's not a pretty thing to go through because it's very painful, and knowing that the pain is not from within, it's from without. But the Lord somehow makes a way, and when I call that person or minister to that person, there is a breakthrough by God using me. At times it's challenging because some of the people I'm not so close to, but when I speak, because it is from the Lord, it resonates with the person. Yeah, and that is a gifting because of listening to Hopefm.